Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, and today we're going to talk about how to write a cause movie. Now, a cause movie could go from anything that you're looking at and you're going, you know what, I want to specifically promote this cause, all the way kind of to the other side of the spectrum where you present essentially a metaphor for the cause, like some kind of sports movie or something like that. And in the midst of it, you deliver a deep, profound message that changes people's lives. So think about, before we start, just start thinking about what might be the cause, what might be the thing that you want to promote, the change that you want to be able to give the world, or the change that you want to give yourself. And to cause people to be able to have that emotional change, and live better lives because of it. Because if there was ever a time in our history where we needed these kinds of movies, it's right now. No matter what you believe, if we could make a shift out there and cause people to be better human beings, to deal with others well, to create things that change the world. If you can do that, I think you are an incredible human being, and you deserve all the success in the world. So let's jump into this. And I'll tell you, as we're starting here, I want to give you some examples of some movies that actually had an impact. Not the kind that we said, oh, wow, it did really well once or something like that, but the kind that had, a lasting impact. Take a look at this one, Enter the Dragon. You may not have been around back when that happened, but what I'll tell you is when that movie came out, it completely changed how Americans thought about martial arts. Up until that point, martial arts was something that they had seen in kind of bad Chinese kung fu movies. When this one came out, it became Americanized, right? It became something that people watched and they went, oh my God, this is incredible. I want to do that. And because of that, there was an entire explosion of martial arts training and martial arts centers in the US. It changed the world in that particular way. This movie, Rounders, you may not have seen it. That's okay. But just know this. When Rounders came out, the World Series of Poker was something that you had only heard about ever once in a while. I'd probably heard it 3 times in my life. Rounders took the $10,000 main event that people thought others were crazy to risk $10,000. It took it from a very small event to something that was one of the biggest events in poker. And because of this movie, 20 times more people put up their $10,000 and signed up for it. In the next 2-3 years after this movie, 20 times more people did that. It caused a poker explosion that I have talked with multiple world champions. At one point, I interviewed about 20 world champions. Half of them said they started playing poker because of this movie. So this stuff has an impact. This movie, you may look at this one and say, that's not a profound movie. And the truth is, this guy's part of the movie isn't a profound movie. But inside that movie was an incredible female empowerment movie. And if you haven't watched it thinking that, go watch it, right? Pull it up and just watch it and say, I'm just going to watch the Sarah Connor part of this movie. And what you're going to see is a woman who goes from being an inept waitress who can't even deal with her own customers, who by the end of that movie, she has been completely trained to be the person who makes the future happen, to train John Connor, who ends up running the military. But she, at the end of that movie, is the only human being that's ever killed a Terminator. And she now knows how to do it. She has a complete model. She's been trained by somebody from the future. It actually has an amazing, profound story in it. And by the way, I'll tell you, my daughters, one of the big shows they grew up on was a spinoff of this, which was the Sarah Connor Chronicles. So that's the other thing. When you create something truly profound, a lot of times it turns into something much bigger. And then this one. And this is a movie that we've analyzed like 4 different times in different directions. We've analyzed it for the action story in it. We've analyzed it for a couple other things, but we also analyzed it for the profound story where someone who was a nobody went from that to becoming the one, right? The one human being who could subvert the matrix. Now, in the midst of doing all of that, I have asked 400 people, really. At different times, I'll be in the middle of something. I'll say, have you seen The Matrix? And they'll say, yes. And I'll say, how many times? And 90% of them say a number like 10 or more. They have watched it over and over and over and over again. And the reason they watch it isn't because of the cool guns. It's not because of the special effects, although those were really unbelievable back when they came out. The reason they watch it over and over and over again is because of the profound story inside of it, right? And that's what this whole thing is about. These movies, all of them, have been watched 10 times normal views. And so if you think about it, like, can you remember a Matrix knockoff that you watched more than 5 or 6 times? It's like, this is one of those things where it's not just about having cool special effects and that kind of thing. It's about having the kind of story that causes people to get so emotionally involved, they come back and see it over and over, and they want to be that, whatever it is. If that's something that you're thinking about at some point, if you want people to watch your movies over and over and over, or your TV shows, consider this. Now, I'm going to take it a step further so you can see this. And on every one of these, if you take out the profound part, it's got the cool stuff and that kind of thing, but there's been a bunch of movies that have done the same kinds of things as The Matrix and didn't get watched more than twice. If you take out the profound part of these movies, nobody watches them a second time. Really. It's like, again, Terminator. We've had lots of movies. And by the way, if you watch that one right now, you'd go, this is like the kind of special effects and those kinds of things aren't that big a deal. But again, I say it's because of the profound story. Now, we'll talk more about that, but I want to show you something else. You may have seen this show on Netflix, The Queen's Gambit. This is another example, and I've got like 20 of these, where a show on TV had an impact on what happened out in the world. So just watch this first. This one was number 1 on Netflix when it came out in 63 countries. Who would think that a show about playing chess would end up being number 1? And it's not because it's about playing chess. And it's also not because it's about it being a woman, a lead character who's a female, although that does help. That absolutely does help. But it's because it has an incredibly profound story built into it. It ended up playing for 62 million households. And normally I would stop right there and just say, all right, that's what happened. That's really good. Congratulations and all of that kind of thing. But I want you to see some of the impact it had out in the world that we can measure. Because the question when you're talking about a profound movie is, or a TV show, how do you measure the impact? Now, again, one way is that people watch it over and over and over, right? Like with The Matrix, but just watch this. What impact did it have? First, chess sets at the time increased, chess set sales increased 250% on eBay. This movie came out, and in the next month, they went 250% times what they normally do. Isn't that crazy? New players on chess.com increased 5-fold. Chess.com reported about this. They talked about it. They said they were actually having to bring in new tech people in order to raise the level so that they could handle that kind of new players coming in. You know, the novel itself, after 37 years of never making it as a bestseller, hit the bestseller list 37 years later. That's just crazy. And the financial news, and I'm talking Yahoo News, Yahoo Financial News, recommended the show, and then they recommended the Netflix stock because of what this show had done. Now, I want you to take that in for just a moment, because this isn't something that happens with most TV shows. There are a few that have absolutely caused a major impact, but this was a show that came out of nowhere, that was like something most people would say, no way would anybody even watch the show. And it had this kind of impact. So while you're thinking about that, the question in life is going to be all about, how do you do this? Right? Because this is the kind of thing you want to be able to do. You want to not just have a story that you love. You want to have a story that other people love. You want to have the kind of story that when they watch it, they go, oh my God, that changed my life. Right? And that they talk about and tell others about. And 10 years later, they still say it changed their life. And that's what I think is possible here. Now, here's what we're going to do today. We'll first talk about what makes a great cause movie. Then, what are the key decisions? What is our profound model here? And then we'll go right into the upcoming class and talk about the profound screenplay class that can make such a significant difference for your writing. And really not just change other people, but change who you are as a writer. So what makes a great cause movie? Just a moment. And I'm not talking about an infomercial or a documentary, right? So a lot of times when people are talking about cause, they're going to write a cause movie, they go to something that would look like an infomercial where they're just saying the same thing over and over and over and over. You don't want that. That's not going to keep an audience more than 5 minutes. The other thing they go to is a straight documentary, and they're trying to write a movie, but they want to make sure that every single thing they say is right and correct, and it tells this story in a documentary style. That also is great if you're going to do a documentary. If you are, please follow that style. But if you're trying to write a cause movie, there's something else. An audience change doesn't come from, and this is the other part, from a character preaching at them or just providing information to them when you're talking about a movie. It comes from going on a profound journey that causes us to rethink or shift our perspective in life. Now, I've spent a lot of time studying this, because the reason that I came into this whole industry was because there were some movies that changed my life. There were some TV shows that changed my life. And I wanted to be able to do that. And I wanted to be able to have other people be able to do that. So let's take the next step. Key decisions. First decision. Most people think The decision is what's the journey and that kind of thing. It's like you're asking, what's the change that I'm going to bring to the audience? And if somebody tells you you shouldn't be thinking about your audience, they're living in the 1990s. We are no longer in that world. You should be thinking about your audience for multiple reasons. You should be thinking about them from a business perspective, so that if a producer says to you, who's the audience for this movie or TV show, you have an answer that they go, oh my God, you're right. I could sell it to that audience. You should also be thinking about it from a perspective of writing to that audience, where this essentially, and this is the way one A-list screenwriter said it, she said, I write love letters to my audience. And what she meant was she specifically wrote that movie, that TV show for an exact audience that she's talking to, right? So in that case, I'm still asking, what's the change that we're trying to make? What can we do for this audience? Well, how can we help them? How can we change their life? How can we move them forward to the next level? Because again, if you can do that, you're somebody who has brought them a gift that they never could have had before. Really, when you think about, just think into your own life, there are probably certain movies or TV shows that shifted you, that had you go, oh my God, I can do this, or I can be more, or this is the path I want to follow, right? That's the change. Who is the change agent? The one that causes it. We'll talk about this in more detail in just a little bit. And who gets changed? A lot of times people think one of these is the protagonist, the other is the antagonist. It actually could be either way. And we have a different model that will actually make this all completely make sense to you. And then what is the vehicle you're going to present the change through? Right? So you could present the change, through a drama where we just go through and explore this character's inner world and how they're changing and what's coming up. You actually could present it through an action movie like The Matrix or Terminator, right? You could present it through, there's a whole series of different things. Like if you go to the Queen's Gambit, basically it was presented through this journey in the chess world. That's the vehicle. So that's the other thing you're looking for. Now, let me get out of your way here, and I'll take you through how this model works. Because this isn't just about, hey, I have a great idea and let me tell the story. This is about how you tell the story. You could tell that same story in 30 different ways. Maybe one of them is profound, right? And that's the way everything is, right? You could have 30 different lead characters, and maybe one of them is the perfect lead character for that. So here, what we're doing is we're looking for, how do we cause change? So let's start with that. First, we go to number one. Now, the reason, by the way, the reason this looks like an envelope is because originally we started with the same model. When our development team started working on it, we started with the same model everybody else has, right? Which was, what's the message that we're going to deliver? That's what we thought it was. So that became the envelope. And then what is the arc that's what the character's going to go through? We've changed that. So the first question that I'm actually asking now is, what's the change? I think this is probably one of the most important questions. You need to know, what's the change you're going to cause for your audience? Because if you know that, then you can actually design the structure of your story. You can design the character journey. You can design the characters to be able to cause that change. Second thing, up here to the top of the left, you then need an opening that connects with your audience. And by the way, let me just use the Matrix as we're talking about this. What's the change for the Matrix? It's about becoming the one in your life. right? If you ask the guys who wrote that, it was about making this huge transition. And the change was about giving the people the power to be able to make that transition in life, right? So the opening that connects in this particular case, we've got, this guy that wakes up. His life is kind of a mess. He doesn't know what he's doing. He works a normal job. He's just like everybody else in one way or another. He's trying to do the best he can, but sometimes it just isn't happening. So we actually connected with him in multiple ways in the very beginning. Then we go over to the profound ending, and this is on the right-hand side, top right, number 3. You need an ending that's going to be profound, that's going to lock that change in, that's going to have us walk out of the movie theater saying, that's me, right? I just went through that change and I've experienced it. And by the way, everybody should know this. The reason why people watch the same movie 10 times over isn't for all the other things. Even when people say it's for the characters or it's this, or I like that movie or whatever, it's because they want to go on that journey, which takes us to number 4, the transformational journey. I was talking with a producer who does movie trailers for the big studios. And probably half of the movie trailers you've seen have come from that particular company. And I said, so what goes into a movie trailer? And the first words he said was the profound journey, or the profound transformational journey. And I was like, oh, that's why I see those trailers sometimes, and they basically tell the whole story. And he said, yes. And I says, how does that work? I mean, don't people get to the end and say, I've already seen this, the whole story. I've seen the whole movie. I don't need to come and watch it. And he goes, well, if you're not the audience for that movie, that's true. But he says, if you're the audience for that movie, you see that profound journey, and then you say, oh my God, I have to experience that. Right? And that's what brings people back to watch The Matrix or any other movie like that 10 times over. Now, let's continue with this. Bottom left-hand corner, we need a transformable character. And let me give you the other one so we can talk about them at the same time. Bottom right-hand corner, we have a change agent. A couple of things to know about this. Sometimes people say, well, I want every character in my movie to change. So it's possible. But here's how you deal with it in a stronger way that we live through. Like if you go to The Matrix, there's really mainly one character that changes, and that's Neo, right? Neo starts as an every kind of person who has all these problems that most people have. At some point, most of us have gone through this. We've lived in a small apartment. We've had to get up and go to work. We didn't like our job, things like that. We were wondering what our lives are going to be like, all that kind of thing. And then Neo goes on this transformational journey. And by the end, he's over here where the change agent is, right? The change agent in The Matrix is Morpheus. And Morpheus has already been through the change. He understands it. He knows it. Now, he's not the one, right? But he's doing his role, right? His destiny is to bring the one into the world, essentially. So we put him over here. We put the change agent over to the right because they already know the ending. They've already been through the transformational journey. They're already bringing something that will help the transformable character go through, right? If you look at Dead Poets Society, this was Mr. Keating. He had already been at that school. He had gone through everything those boys were going to go through. And then he'd gone to another school and found this thing about free thinking. And he was bringing this new vision, the change, back to the boys, right? The transformable characters, he was the change agent. So you need those two. Now, the change agent might be the protagonist. It might be the antagonist, like in some movies where it's the drill sergeant that's forcing this character to go through things. Or it might be a side character, a supporting character that just comes in every once in a while and says something at the right time in the right way and causes that change, right? But if you have both of these, we're going to go on the journey with the transformable character, and we're going to listen to the change agent, the Yoda, right? So then we have number 7, which goes from the bottom left-hand corner all the way to the top right-hand corner. So notice first it's starting over here. After the opening that connects, it's starting over here with the transformable character, and it's going up and to the right through the change to get to this profound ending. Now, here's what this one is. This is what we call the gradient of change. And let me actually start by telling you the opposite of this. The opposite is when somebody has a movie where a lead character starts as an every person kind of character, and they stay the same all the way through it. And then at the very end, we have this exciting moment where they suddenly become the hero and change the world, right? Okay, in that case, that meant there's no gradient. You went straight across the whole time and then suddenly had a jump. So the audience didn't get to experience the change in a profound way. What they got instead was they got this one exciting moment at the end and went, wow, that character who we didn't expect much out of did something. Now, there's a difference between that kind of change and the kind of change that we watched Neo go through, or the kind of change that Sarah Connors went through. Their change was a gradient. Right? We watched little beats of things happening where they suddenly saw more, right? If you look at Sarah Connor in the beginning, she essentially was a victim. Everybody was coming to try to kill her. And then this guy basically kidnapped her. And then she bit his hand because she was going to fight back no matter what. Then she didn't believe anything he said, but he had told it to her. And then she saw the Terminator, and now she needed the change, right? So for the first time, she's wanting that change. And then from there, then the cops told her a whole story, and she thought that was true until the Terminator showed back up, and the only one that could save her was the change agent. And once that happened, now she said yes to the change. But then what happened was she had to learn a whole bunch of things. She had to go through all kinds of stuff. Ultimately, she had to fight a Terminator in order to end up finally being the only human being on the planet who had actually killed a Terminator. Now, I wanted to tell you that whole story because that change is part of, and that transformational journey is part of why people watched that movie over and over and over again. Even the macho men in the world who thought they were watching the Terminator, what they didn't know was they were there because of Sarah Connor. Now, you may not agree with that, but they were there because there was a serious, deep, profound change that was occurring. They were actually living the Sarah Connor story and becoming the only one who's ever killed a Terminator. And same thing with the women, right? So that, notice the gradient of change allowed us as an audience to take the steps with her. And it allowed us to go through and experience that change until by the end, we had some version of it on a metaphoric level, right? I hope that makes total sense. Now, a couple other things here that are really important. Number 8, early on in your script, you need to challenge the old ways, right? And it's like, if you go to The Matrix, there were a whole series of challenges that he experienced. First, he thought he was living in this world. And then some things started to happen around him, like, even the very beginning one, follow the white rabbit. And then he follows the white rabbit, and then he ends up meeting Trinity, who he always thought was a man, and it turns out she's a woman, and she's incredible. And she told him, "You're looking for the answer to the question, what is the Matrix?" So now he knows what he's supposed to ask and where he's going. And then the whole thing happens with Morpheus, right? And it's like, when Morpheus calls him from the phone that just got delivered by FedEx, that challenged his old ways of thinking. When he got picked up by the agents, and they put something in his stomach, that really challenged his old ways of thinking. So he's now, by that point, he's going, this whole world is not what I thought it was. Right? When Morpheus then takes him through, as they're doing the transfer or the gradient of change, when he takes him through and shows him what the world really looks like, and he throws up all over the place, that challenged his old ways of thinking. So this is an important thing that is done without just telling people they're wrong, right? It's done in a way that causes them to go, oh my God, I never thought of it that way, and causes them to rethink things. Then you're going to deliver profound moments that lock in the change, that have people experience the change in a way that they go, oh my God, that's me, or that I can do that, or that's possible, or for the first time, I see what this whole thing is about, right? For the first time, I can see the Matrix. And because of that, now I have a chance at being able to control it. So this stuff is really important in allowing people to accept this gradient of change and go on this transformational journey. A couple of other things. Number 9, it's got to be done through entertainment. And let me tell you why I say this. It's really easy to go in to something like this and think, let me just tell them all the facts, kind of thing, in the movie. And if you do that, what happens is maybe somebody watches it one time and it's like, then they've got the facts. But if you want to change their life, part of it has to be something that's entertaining, that gives us a fun, interesting, compelling roller coaster, emotional roller coaster that we will also want to go on over and over and over again. And then finally, number 10 over here, you need to give us insights, deep insights. And this is another level. So if you give us the exact same insights we've always seen, in the exact same way we've seen them, they're going to sound boring. But what you need to do over here is one of two things. You either need to give us the same insights we've had before, but in a profound way, a new way that has us go, oh my God, I understood this, but never like that. Or you need to look deep and find some kind of new insight that when we see it, it will give us a huge breakthrough. It will light us up. It will cause us to go, oh my God, that's what life's about. Now I understand life for the first time. And that kind of thing doesn't happen very often. But when it does, when somebody comes out with a movie that first does all of these things and then gives us a deep, profound insight into it, when that kind of thing happens, our lives just changed. And people live that from now on. Right? And it's really, truly important to know this. Every step of this model is designed to have your writing have so much more depth. Again, if you take a look at these and the Queen's Gambit and others like them, those movies changed people's lives. There's lots of people who have said that these movies have changed their life in one way or another. When I was talking to those world champions having to do with poker, when they talked about Rounders, some of them said they had watched it 25 times. And they said it was one of the primary things that had them believe that they could do it. And ultimately, they ended up being the world champion, winning $6 million, $10 million because they went on a journey watching a movie. So what does this bring to you? This is a special kind of skill set. And it's not, it's like a lot of times people have their own profound experience and then they try to put it on paper and it just isn't coming out. And the question isn't whether or not you feel profound about it. The question is, how do you translate that to an audience so that they have the profound experience, right? It's a special skill set that very few writers have. And when you have it, people call you a genius. Right? They look and they go, there's something about him or her that I don't see with other writers. We have one person who went through this program who was working with a horror producer, big horror producer. That producer had written a script. My writer was rewriting it. And he kept saying, well, put in more scares, do this, do that. And finally, she was in this program at that time. She just finished it up. She called me up and she said, what do you think he would think if I put a profound story under the surface? And I said, well, how about if you just do it and not tell him that's what you did and then let him read it? And she did that. She went back to him. They had done 10 drafts. This was the 11th. And she built a profound story into it. This is a horror movie. He read it and he came back and he said, I've never seen writing like this. You are incredible, right? That's the kind of difference that this kind of writing makes. So stay with me for about 5 minutes. Let me just walk you through the upcoming class that is designed not only to change your life, but to give you the ability to change other people's lives when they watch your movie or read your novel or watch your TV series. So here we go. This program is a series of lessons. It's a 30-day long program. Every lesson is going to give you more and more depth, more and more understanding. By the end of it, you will be able to create something that's profound. So we start with that. What is profound, right? And what is it that makes something profound? I give you much, much more than what we talked about today. But you're then from there going to define the change of your story and with our unique model and how to make it entertaining. We're going to put those two together from the beginning. From there, you will go through and create a transformational journey that is specifically designed to cause audiences to go on it, to live it, and to love it. Then on day 4, you will work with the change agent and the transformable character. We actually have 4 levels of each of these. I only talked about one of them today, but those 4 levels, once you build them in, these 2 are going to be incredible and everybody is going to know them and live with them and love them. Then we'll talk about the gradient of change. And today I gave you one version. Here, we're actually going to give you 3 different gradients of change. And when you're done, you will actually build all 3 of them in. When you're done, you'll intertwine those 3, and that will become your plot. So every single scene in your story will contribute in some way to causing a profound change. Then it's about structure, connecting with the audience, and leaving us with a profound ending that has an impact. This is incredibly important because if you end up giving us an average ending or just a good ending to a profound story, it'll ruin it. So you got to have that. Day 9, 10, 11, and 12 is something you have never seen anyplace else. We had an incredible development team with psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, people who were change agents. We brought them in the beginning. We said, we need to be able to shift people's belief systems with our movies. All of them said that's not possible. By the end of working together for 6 months, we had designed a model that actually can do that. So if what you're trying to do is to be able to make a change out there, if you want to be somebody who has created something profound for people and done something profound, these 4 will do that. All the way from shifting the beliefs, challenging their beliefs, discovering the profound moments, and writing those. Then it's about, of course, entertaining scenes and dialogue that guides our life. And think about this. There are some things that were said in movies that you probably live based on. When the movie Dead Poets Society came out, I was in corporate training at that time. I was going around working with about 30 corporations, and I saw trainers use the words, what was it? Carpe diem. Seize the day, boys, seize the day. I saw trainers in 30 corporations say those words. That came from a movie, right? I interviewed the writer of that movie and talked with him about it. And he actually talked about how they chose, how many times they put it in, and how they set it up every time because they wanted people to be saying that line from now on. So this is stuff that you can do. Ultimately, you'll bring it together and you will have this profound map that will become essentially this incredible outline. You'll write that script in a couple of drafts, and you'll have a script that is better and more profound than anything you have ever written in your life. Once you master this model, you will actually be able to use this on any script you write in the future and on any rewrite you do within any of the movies you have. Now, I'm not saying you have to use it, but please know this. Once you understand this model, you will look at the movies that you have seen over and over, and you will see them in a different light, and you will suddenly have the power to be able to accomplish that kind of thing, where you write something that grips people, has them be deeply engaged, has them live your story, and ultimately it causes some kind of shift in their life. If that's what you want to do, come join us. Now, I'm going to give you a special on this, so stay with me on it. This is one of those things where really every one of these lessons is incredible, what it does and the insights that it gives you. It's a 30-day class. Excuse me on that. It's a 30-day class. It starts November 20th. That gives you enough time to brainstorm some ideas. You know, what would you like to write? Or to select some movie or some script you've already written, a TV series or movie that you can bring in and run through this program. If you're going to do that, by the way, what I would recommend is that you give yourself the freedom to think outside the box of what you've already done and see how you can make that movie or TV series deeply, deeply profound. Now, here's the special. This is for the first 20 people. The regular price is $297. For this special, you can get in for $197. That will save you $100 off of the cost of this program. This program really, truly will shift everything you ever do from now on, having to do with writing. The one other thing that this program does is if you've ever felt like you just didn't have enough depth, or if any reader or judge, contest judge or producer or manager has said you needed more depth, this program will give you profound depth. So again, it's $197. That'll save you $100. This is the last time we're doing that. All you got to do is write that link down, bit.ly/profound class. Capitalize the P and the C. Put that into your web browser where you normally put a web address and click return and begin this journey that will change your writing from this point on. So I hope you'll join us for this. I promise you, you will absolutely love it. It comes with this guarantee. If by the third day you don't like it for any reason, just come back to us and we will refund your money. We take really good care of our writers, and this is a journey that I think you will honor and love for the rest of your life, as if you're going to continue to be a writer. This is something that will shift things in a huge way for you, and give you the story beneath the story, the purpose beneath the purpose, and the profound part beneath the normal story that you were writing. It will bring this part that doesn't exist for 97, 98% of the writers out there. So it is well worth it. Again, just write down this link, bit.ly/profound class, capital P, capital C, put that into your web browser and go on this amazing journey with us. With that, this is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, thanking you for being with me today, and I wish you the absolute best on your writing. Bye-bye, everyone.